you asked me to talk, he gave me 2 talking points: beer and pleasure point. And as you can imagine, with the starting of a new business, you don't really get a lot of time to actually have cognizant thought patterns that don't involve your business. So my husband and I were lucky enough to escape this past weekend with our children to Downeyville. We had a really fun time on the river mountain biking, and we participated in the first ever Downeyville Beer Festival. So as I was floating along on the river, I had all this time to think about what pleasure point means to me, and in a very circuitous route, I will bring that back to beer, I promise. So 20 years ago, when I was just shy of my, I'm going to move over here so you don't see my knees rattle. Just shy of my 20th birthday, 20 years ago, I moved from Sydney, Australia to Pleasure Point, California. And I lived in a tiny beach shack down on 26, just up from Kong's Market. And I had to go to a bar down here. It's no longer here, called the Hurry Back Inn, to pay my rent. And I had to walk over a dog and enter like a very dark bar, and I wasn't 21 yet, and pay. And each time I left after paying my rent, I thought, I'm alive. I'm alive. And the very first, I was working my way through my undergraduate degree. The very first big purchase I bought was a green dyno hybrid bike from the Family Cycling Center. And a lot of my paycheck went to tofu scrambles at Sue's, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of my, and it still does for that matter, actually. I was there this morning. The other thing about Pleasure Point too is that I have 4 children, and I've raised them here on these beaches. I can't think of how many boards that I bought for my kids here, or wetsuits, and how many walks I've taken along the cliff. Sometimes by myself in solitude, sometimes with my girlfriends cackling like mad, and sometimes with my husband just contemplating our gifted life to be able to live here in such a wonderful location. One of these walks in particular is what I want to talk about. My husband Dan, who you probably know is more as a face of Nubo than me, I'm more of the behind the scenes person. We were taking a stroll, and he had been working for 3 years over the hill as a brewer, doing a graveyard shift. He would leave home at 8 o'clock, get to work at 9 p.m., and come home at 6 o'clock the next morning. And it was hell. It was really, really a hard struggle. And we're taking a walk along the cliff, and he stops, he looks out at the surfers, and he says to me, you know what? I want to open up my own brewery. 2 thoughts crossed my mind. I don't know what order they were in. The first one was, holy shit, I think he's serious. and the second one was, I took a really deep thought, and I'm like, this man is so charismatic and so determined that I know, even if all the odds are stacked against us, we will make this dream come true. And my background, speaking of entrepreneurship, my background is in grant writing. For 10 years I was writing grants, and coming from the place of nonprofit to private business is a very strange path to take. So we ventured into writing a business plan, and I'm not gonna lie when I tell you I can't think of how many times I tried to quit or he tried to fire me during the writing of that plan, but we got it written. It was in a 100-page document, and we were so excited. We had this great plan, but we didn't know what to do from there. So we ended up finding a business competition, Monterey Bay Small Business Competition. We entered that and we won it. So we thought, oh, maybe we are onto something here, but we had 2 pieces missing to this great vision of opening up a brewery. One of them was a great location, and the other was money. But we had a great plan, so everything was gonna be good. And we looked and we looked all over the county, but eventually we found 1030 41st Avenue, this gorgeous, gorgeous building. And I remember the first time I went in there. It's a 2-story building. It's a very intriguing building. And I thought to myself, Dan, how are we going to put a brewery in this building? And he had it all in his head. He had this amazing vision of what it would look like, and sure enough, it all came to be. And it's really fascinating. The philosophy that we came from, and TC touched a lot on it, is the sense of community. We are such a special community here in Pleasure Point, and we wanted to create a place that had 4 key elements. One of them was functional. We had to make beer in this location. The second was beauty, and we didn't have to do much for that. It was already such an incredible building. We did very minimum work to it, actually. We wanted to keep the beauty and let it speak for itself. The third was education. So for those of you who have been in there, you will realize that the brewing process is happening all around you. If you are in the downstairs bar, you can watch Dan brew beer. Upstairs, fermentation happens, and then it comes back down, and then it's served either to one of our 2 bars. And it creates a dialogue. If someone will ask, what are you doing? And then he can directly tell you, or one of our servers can directly tell you. And the fourth piece is that sense of community. We wanted to be a place where people meet and people gather, and where meetings happen. For example, we've had several different local meetings happen at our community table. It's a spot where ideas happen. It's a spot where people can dream, and we hope that when people dream, their dreams can also come true. So that is really near and dear to me, because community is so important. And on another note, we this week just celebrated 4 months of being open, which I still have to pinch myself sometimes that we actually are open. And during that time, Dan has created 22 different types of amazing beers, ranging from Cherry Bomb, which is our Imperial Cherry Stout, to the On Point Lager today, which has very quickly became a Point favorite. And he has brewed 220 barrels of beer during that time, during these 4 months. And the best part, and I think it's something that I will end on, is that we have the capacity to have 8 taps of beer flowing at a time, but we have only ever managed to get 7 beers on tap because they keep on selling out. So it's a very good problem to have, and I really want to thank the community of Pleasure Point from the bottom of my heart. Like, I feel humbled every day by the amount, and I know Dan feels the same way too, the amount of support that we have received from everyone, whether you're checking in to see what's new or giving us a high five because we're open, all of it. We're so humbled by it, and that's how I'm going to end. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.